So today we're going to talk about social circles. With an activity like this, and you can do this for yourself, you can do this for kids, you can even do this for a grown adult. Doesn't matter. What this does is it gives us an idea of what our relationship dynamics are. It helps us to look more closely at vulnerability, at intimacy, and it can also help us just to have an understanding of our relationships and how relationships change with people around us. So, if this is an activity that you'd like to follow along with, or something that you would like to use working with other people, you don't necessarily need a sand tray. That's just kind of for fun for myself. And what you will need is a handful of small objects. I have done this before with like a bulk order of bottle caps for some craft project I was using. However you want to do it. If you want to do this with specific people in your life, whether doing this collaboratively with another person, which is a little bit more complicated, if that's something that you guys would like to hear a little bit more about, let me know and we can do that later. Today we're just going to look at this as a solo activity that you're doing with yourself. If you feel like you want to add other people in, feel free. And if you want to do this kind of activity where you're looking at specific people in your own life, whenever you're picking your small objects, things like this, if you want to be able to label them, just pick something that you can write on with a Sharpie. Bottle caps, like I said, blank bottle caps work really well for that. Little pieces of paper, whatever you want to do. I'm going to put this little flower in the center. So whatever you put in the center, that's the item that stands for you. We're going to build your little social universe around you as we put this together. So start with yourself in the center. And we're thinking about this in terms of layers. Okay? So in each of these tiers, it's a helpful way to think about this. I want you to think about people that are important to you in your life. Anyone that you feel close to, people you feel further away from. This is also a useful activity for working with kids to help them learn about relationship dynamics. You could even use this to teach like some stranger danger stuff. This is also a really helpful way sometimes for autistic individuals to have a better understanding of things like social hierarchy and such, because it's not something that necessarily comes as easy or as naturally. So those are some additional contexts where this might be useful. I'm going to start by picking up another little item, and I'm going to work from the inner circle to the outer circle. So when I think of people that might be considered part of my inner circle, those might be people that I would feel really comfortable with opening up, really sharing important, meaningful things to myself about myself that I might not share so openly. Okay, so inner circle people, and everybody's different. This could be a best friend. This could be a parent, a spouse. In some cases, it can be a mentor, somebody that you've had around a long time, or that you've had a very deeply meaningful relationship, even if the period of time hasn't been that long. It's not really about length of time necessarily with relationships. It's about the depth of connection and the ability for each person to mutually see, love, and accept one another. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about vulnerability, closeness, connection, intimacy. Okay? So place your people there accordingly. So those are going to be the people that we open up to, we share the most with. Okay? Moving out from that, we might have people who are not really acquaintances, but they're friends. So a little closer, a little bit more warmth in the connections. So these might be people that you see every day that know a good bit about you, you know a good bit about them. It's people you could call on, if you needed some kinds of help and support, and vice versa. The vice versa is always important because it's not just about what you need, it's about your willingness to be there, be present, and be connected with other people as well. So always, as you're going through, I rely on this person, mentally, physically, emotionally, sometimes financially, whatever the situation may be. And that's fantastic. But always just check in with yourself and make sure that you're also returning those things to others as well. So, this may be maybe friends from school that, we get along with well. We can hang out, we have a great time together. If you needed something, you could call them up and vice versa. But it's not somebody who maybe knows all of the significant details about your life. They maybe don't know, they don't know all the deepest things. Sometimes coworkers, if it's a closer coworker relationship, can fall into this category. Okay? This can be family members as well. People you've met in clubs, groups, activities, whatever. Okay? So these are the people that know about our lives. We don't share the most detailed parts of ourselves. We don't maybe share our most vulnerable struggles with, but they are people that we enjoy spending time with, that we can talk to about things that aren't just work or school. Can do a little bit more than that. And that we generally feel a level of comfort around, which all of those things also apply to this inner circle as well. So you can think about this in layers. Maybe almost everything applies to these most inner circle people. And then we peel a layer back, and we have this layer of people, and peel another layer back, and we have this most outer ring of people, which is what we're going to talk about now. So this might be, again, coworkers can fall into this category. If we're not that close with them, we don't know them that well, it's just a, hey, how are you in the morning? Maybe you pick up, coffee for each other now and then, but it's really not a close connection or anything like that. It's not the person who's going to know about the biggest struggles in your life. It's not the person who's going to know about the reason why you were 10 minutes late to the office that morning because of something going on in your family or something like that. Okay? These are just people that maybe we have functional working relationships with, but they're largely on the periphery. This can also be people that we haven't spoken to in quite some time. I think of sometimes connections on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. A lot of the people that we probably have on those platforms are not inner circle people, not on the whole. Your inner circle's probably on there. But, when we look at, several hundred or several thousand people, it's a good chance most of those people are nowhere near your inner circle. Okay? Might have been people you met in passing, business connections, some networking. So close enough to be able to reach out and chit chat and maybe help each other out now and then. But other than that, it's a somewhat distant and disconnected relationship, but amicable. So those are our 3 layers that we're looking at right now. What you can also do too is if there are people who maybe we know, but it's very much in passing, and we don't really even have that sense of connection, those are people that we could go around and put little dots out here. So they're not really even in one of our circles. They are, maybe we know of them, they know of us, but there's not much more to it than that. Okay? So these would be people that would fall totally outside of those circles. Not someone we're going to call on for anything, even a tiny favor. It's not really like that. It's just a casual in passing sort of connection. These can also sometimes be people that we look up to and we admire. So it's not that their presence, whether it is in person or online, isn't meaningful to us. It's just not deeply connected. When we are looking at our relationships, especially if we feel like we're in a period of our life that's causing us to reflect and look at how things are changing, okay? Because people are not static in these layers. They move back and forth. And these rings grow and expand too. If you're someone who really values closer, more deep connections and that you prefer an element of deeper connection in as many of your relationships as possible, the space between your circles might be smaller. So you may still have 3 rings, but they may not extend very far out from you in the center. You may prioritize having much closer relationships. You may also be someone who likes to have a lot more distance between each of these rings too. So there would be a significant difference for you between someone who's in this innermost circle and on this outermost circle. The amount that you share, the reciprocity, might be a lot more sparse for you, and you might like it that way. That's okay. So this sort of outline for reflecting on these relationships is unique to each person too. Some people might need 5 or 6 different layers to describe their relationships. If I was doing this more directly for myself, I tend to be one of those people. I need a few more layers to describe the specific type of relationship that I'm looking at. So doing this today is a much more generalized version that I think is maybe easier to follow and a little bit more applicable broadly for everybody. Okay? So now when we get into that piece of looking at relationships and reflecting on them, especially if we feel like we're in a time of change in our connections, someone who might be here in this innermost circle, someone who has really held our heart, sometimes things happen and they move out here. Sometimes this is a slow process and then eventually they end up way out here. And sometimes they go off the board completely. Sometimes it's a slow process like what we just demonstrated, and sometimes someone goes straight from here to off the board almost overnight, and that's a very painful experience. But if you're not sure where you stand with someone or what to do about a relationship when the dynamics feel like they're changing, and you're trying to find a way to think about that and make some important decisions about your connections, journaling is always recommended. However, that's not going to work for everybody. And sometimes something visual like this is a little bit less intimidating because we don't have to write a novel about the way we feel about everything, and we're not getting caught up in all the intricate details of what happened and who said what. It's just what's actually going on. And if I had to place this person where I feel, not necessarily all where you think, thinking and feeling have to work together, where I think and where I feel like they should be now, or where I want them to be right now, which can also be temporary. This can be an easy way or an easier path to helping you make those decisions and come to those realizations. Sometimes we want to hang on to people and keep them in our center circle when they have no business being there. And it's important to recognize that, because if you looked at this as kind of all the people and the influences on your own sense of energy, emotional safety, security, feelings of being accepted, if we have people in this that aren't actually healthy and good for us, it's something to be aware of. Doesn't mean we just kick people out of our lives, but it's sometimes they need to be moved into a more outer ring. And it doesn't mean if you've got someone, maybe it's, family, a coworker, a boss, something like that, that you really don't want in any of your circles anyways, but out of necessity they have to be present in your life, you may think of them as someone who's out here. That's okay. They can move into these circles when they need to and move right back out when the interactions are done. Okay? And it's not that your relationship dynamic is changing, it's just a different way of thinking about, I have to invite this person in temporarily for this purpose, and then I let them back out. We don't hang on to it. Conversely, sometimes good things happen, and someone from out here or someone here moves into this inner circle with another person. We've decided to be more trusting. It is also true. And that can pull your circle in or pull people in from the periphery closer to the center. So this is another way to look at changing relationship dynamics to give you a more clear idea of where you feel that you stand with other people and where you want other people to be in your life. And sometimes we make the decision to pull someone in from out here a little bit closer, and maybe we forget to communicate that to them, or we're afraid to let them know that the relationship is more meaningful to us than it had been previously. We have to approach that topic gently, but because we don't want someone to feel like they were floating out in the ether and we weren't that concerned, and then all of a sudden we are. But relationships do change and grow over time, and so does connection and intimacy. So that might be something to make sure that you're communicating. If the relationship gets closer and it means more to you and you're wanting to pull that person in, let them know that that's how the bond becomes mutual if they choose that too. and they won't know that it's an option to choose that sometimes until we go first. This means saying, hi, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being in my life. This is saying the I love yous first, whatever that may be. You have to do that, even if it's scary. It's how we get more richness and depth in our connections. The last thing I'll mention here, and I'm going to move these off to the side just so that we can see this a little bit better. There's another category that we need, and there's really not a right or wrong way to look at relationships. Everybody's different, so don't be too judgmental with yourself. Some of us may also need to conceptualize this as having a little space that is your own, just to yourself as well. I'm going to pull this to the side. We're going to make another ring here. Okay, we still have our third. So basically what I'm doing is adding a fourth space. A little tiny space that wasn't here before. And this may not be a space that anyone else is necessarily invited into, or it might not be a space that other people, that you really think of as being there for other people. This might just need to be a little space that we hold for ourselves sometimes. And it can still be beautiful and deep and intimate, but it is a connection with ourselves. This is one that doesn't get talked about, and it sometimes gets a little bit neglected, but it's equally important, maybe vital, to being able to have all these other connections that we had out here, emanating out from us. So, just some food for thought. I hope this has been helpful, and apply this, change it, modify it however you want to make sure that it is useful in your own life and in your own relationships. And with that, I'll wrap us up. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to see this done between multiple people and see how these layers of relationships can overlap, let me know. Thank you so much.